Hi Ritik. Hello.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, hi. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
So, good time to start.
Yes.
Okay. So, Ritik, first let me introduce myself and come profile. Then we will start about the intro process. Okay. So, my name is Pawan. So, I'm working here for last 2 years with the Barco organization.
Hmm.
Total, I have around 14 experience in the IT industry,
Hmm.
and that's include cloud, DevOps, middleware, Linux admin, build release, kind of tools and technologies. So about here the profile that I'm a part of a cloud infrastructure team,
Hmm.
right? So here we manage the Barco infrastructure that's running on cloud, AWS and Azure both.
Okay.
Okay, and we are using Terraform to provisioning the infrastructure. We have Jenkins, CI/CD
Hmm.
pipelines, all our pipelines for provision, deploying the applications, right? Building, deploying, right? And then we have Kubernetes for running the workload.
Okay.
So all everything running inside Kubernetes.
Okay.
Uh, Only database is different,
Hmm.
and applications workload is on Kubernetes. We have Helm chart for deployment, and Kubernetes. There are a lot of other services as well on Kubernetes, right?
Hmm.
Like ingress controller, right? External DNS,
Yes.
right? And some other as well, right? That's we need to like monitoring Prometheus, Kibana, right? Grafana, Elasticsearch, the logging and monitoring part is also there, right?
Hmm.
Apart from the cloud infrastructure monitoring, like Azure Monitor or AWS CloudWatch. Apart from that, we have Prometheus and Elasticsearch and all those.
So a single
Database
person.
side,
So a single person is
yeah.
handling all of it because in MDocs I was working in BSSE project. So all this
Mhm.
was there as well, but I was assigned on only a part of it.
No, no, that's not a case here.
Okay.
Here, here you will be take care of whatever I told you. It's not
Okay.
about but like you're working on Terraform. It's not like that. You
Okay.
will handle the entire things, right? So like it's kind of a L1, L2 roles
Hmm.
where you will handle all the user related query and other as well, right? Any issues or anything. That's up to on you how much you want to
Oh.
learn or how much want to quick learn fast and then grow fast, right?
Yes. Yes.
That is
I
it.
mean there is a lot
It's
of exposure.
it's centralized. Yeah, it's a centralized team we have,
Hmm.
right? And we take care of this entire thing from building to deployment, then maintenance, upgrade, entire thing, right? Kubernetes, manage it, maintain it, upgrade it, right?
Hmm.
Those are the things. Then logging part, Elastic, Kibana, then Prometheus monitoring part, right? Then Terraform, then cloud services we are using S3 and IAM and a lot of other Azure monitors and Azure blob storage, IoT hub, lot of other things as well.
Hmm. Yes.
So there is no separate like the one is doing something and another is doing something. That's not a case here.
Hmm.
Okay. That's more about the profile and yeah. And about the Barco organization actually, Racha told you about it or not?
Yes, I
Let me
was
know.
reading on the internet. So it's an Belgium company, and it is mainly
Mm-hmm.
into electronics. And I mean there are three verticals in which this company is working,
Mm-hmm.
which includes healthcare and cinema related stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So similarly, that healthcare, cinema, entertainment industry,
Hmm.
right? The projectors in cinemas and apart from the big online conferences are there, they're big projector
Hmm.
in the education, there are instructor giving the lecture to students and all the students are
Okay.
sitting on
Okay.
remotes,
Okay.
right? Remote locations and they have centralized room. There are a lot of monitors and
Hmm.
instructor interacting with the student use those monitors. That also Barco provide. So these kind of solutions, electronic device, right? And That is what Barco provide. So Ritik, let's start now with your journey. You did graduation in your
2016.
B.Tech in, yeah, 23, almost 6 year, right?
Five,
Five and
5 years and 10 months of experience, or as of now, I am
yeah,
not working anywhere.
you're not working anywhere.
Actually, I was working on the MDocs on the third party payroll of Surbix software, so my project
Okay,
got rolled off. So they asked me
yeah.
that we need to release you as of now.
So you can join as soon as possible, right?
In 7 to 10 days if selected.
Okay. So do you have any other offer as well?
Right now, I don't have.
Okay. So yeah, just tell me what are your strong areas? What would you like to, even though go in your next 1 or 2 years, where you would like to see yourself, right? With your current tech stack, right? What you
So I want to
yeah.
see
Just go through.
further myself into the cloud,
Mm-hmm.
and the Kubernetes is the hot cake in this DevOps area. So I want
Mm-hmm.
more exposure in Kubernetes part. So I am not that strong, and second is the scripting part. I am weak.
Okay, scripting, shell scripting or Python or what?
Shell and Python, not anything else. Because Python is the most demanding. So Kubernetes and
Mm-hmm.
scripting, those two are my weak areas.
So let's talk about some cloud, right? AWS,
AWS,
Azure.
AWS or Azure, we can talk.
So you worked on AWS and Azure both, right?
Mhm. So if I talk about Azure in Amdocs, my task was to create the resources for the production environment. So basically, I was working for cloud migration program in which there were applications which were supposed to be migrated to cloud. So using
Mm-hmm.
Terraform, I used to create the code, and the skeleton code I used to get from the golden images which were provided by AT&T, which was our client, in Azure portal only. So from like the process started from onboarding the application. So when we onboarded, that was an automated process. So two environments, DevOps RG and DevOps non-prod and prod used to create by itself in Azure portal, and just POC non-prod and production we were supposed to create. So all the resources which were required as per the target architecture, and we had to discuss with the application teams. So AT&T had its own portals which could not be accessed from the outside.
Yeah.
Hmm. So another was a BSSC project. So my task was to every day there was a meeting with the QE team. There were 7 to 8 environments. So I was assigned with QE 3 and QE4 environment in non-prod. So every day developer used to push the code in the Nexus, and from there we used to daily had a meeting, and according to their requirements we had to change the code in the Bitbucket, and after that we used to commit that code and run Jenkins manually. So as per the project requirement, Jenkins we had to run manually. One build we were supposed to give in the morning time, and one after 12:30. And if any error is coming, so we were supposed to troubleshoot that part. And before I was working for KMG, so there I worked for 2 years and 10 months. So I was initially in IT infrastructure, backend everything was on premise, but cloud was introduced there. But it was not implemented that practically, and they used to send me to the client side. But that was not that in depth. So both manual and using the Terraform code, we were supposed to create the resources.
So you have understanding of Terraform as well.
Yeah.
With your previous organization, right?
Hmm.
Okay. Okay, let's start with some basic of AWS. Okay. Sure. What is the use of security group?
Security groups are used for the security purpose of an EC2 instance.
Mm-hmm.
So those are specific only to the EC2 instances.
Uh-huh.
So if in that there is a limitation that if incoming traffic is allowed, outgoing is also allowed,
Okay.
as opposed to an NACL.
So NACL where it's also attached to instance or where? How in
Subnet.
NACL?
So if you use NACL, so entire EC2 instances in that subnet will get the security,
Mm-hmm.
and if we use NSG as well, so there is a two-layer security.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, suppose I have one VPC and there are a couple of subnet in VPC, right? How you will identify which is private and the public? How you will differentiate between private and public subnet?
So we will check the route table. If it is attached to the public, so that is public, otherwise private.
So route table, what you will check in route table?
I mean, if it is attached to the internet gateway, and if it is attached to the NAT gateway, then it is in a private subnet, otherwise in the public subnet. Because if we are attached to the internet gateway, so we are public facing, and NAT gateway is supposed to hide for the. So practical implementation is that if we are creating any server we want to access, so we use for this for a bashing. We will not log in any server directly.
Okay. Okay. Suppose one EC2 instance is running in one availability zone in AWS and there is one EBS volume is also attached to it. Now the requirement is the customer want to run the same instance on another availability zone. Right? They don't want to run that. He just want to one more in one another availability zone. How you will do that? What will be your step?
So we will create another. We can take the image of it and then create in the another availability zone, or VPC is same, or VPC is also different.
It's the same VPC.
So if the same VP is there, no peering is required. So we will can copy the instance or take an image of it, or take the snapshot, whatever our requirement is. If we want to run exactly same.
Yeah, same. Okay. And another is one EBS volume is one availability zones and the instance is running in different availability zone B. Can we attach that instance, that EBS can be attached to that instance or not? Both are in different availability zone. What will be the scenario?
I think I will not be able to answer this.
Okay, then wait. So another question is I have one S3 bucket in my account and there is one EC2 account. EC2 instance is there, right? So just tell me how many way you can provide access to that bucket from that EC2 instance.
So we will have to mount. There is one option to mount that S3. So for that we can use AWS CLI for and then mount that S3 to the EC2 instance. Other than that, S3 provides we can access using the internet, because S3 is an object level storage.
That's fine. Accessible is only when you have permission. In case EC2 instance is there, right? And then S3 bucket. You said mount it, right? AWS CLI or something, right? But I am getting access denied when I'm running AWS S3. ls command to list the bucket, right? I'm getting access denied. Default, if you create a bucket, you can, it's not available to anyone, right?
Yes, it is not available. We have to
So
make it
that
public.
is the question. Yeah, so that is the question. How many way the bucket can be accessible from EST to,
So
there
in
are how many
total,
ways of providing the provision?
so as far as I remember, there are 4 ways. So one is we can use the resource-based policy from the IAM. Other than that, we can use a bucket policy in the JSON format, and there are 2 other options. So back in KMG, I am remembering that there was one issue there around 1.5 years back. So in total, as far as I remember, there are 4 ways in which 2 are, one is from IAM and one is through bucket policy.
Let's come to monitoring part. What all the tools and technologies that you know about monitoring, or even though you can include logging as well.
So
Centralized logging solution that you know about.
so Nagios is there, and CloudWatch is there, and Prometheus is there, and Grafana is there. But my task was back in KMG. So, but my task was to actually they had different clients. So they were deploying different tools. So I was sent there as a deployment engineer. So I was working with them in the deploying continuously for a good amount of time. I was not a part of it.
Okay. Okay. So self scripting, you told me that you weaken that, right?
Yeah, in the basic
That's improvement area, right?
around 3 to 4 lines of code. Actually, back in KMG, so I was asked sometimes to write the script. So when you launch an EC2 instance, there is a user data script. So when you raise,
Yeah.
when you create an EC2 instance, so that EC2 instance will install with that configuration also. So if we suppose you want to install the Nginx or Apache, so for that you can write the script there itself, and even for the HTML pages.
And what about Docker Kubernetes? How much you know about it?
So Kubernetes in my BSSC project, everything was hosted in Kubernetes. So, but that was already deployed. So my task was to troubleshoot if any pod. But that was if anything was there. So if any portal is not working, so we used to restart the pod or kill that pod and start all over again. And if in Docker, I will rate myself as a 3 out of.
Yeah.
So Docker is basically a containerization tool to separate the front end and the back end. I mean, different environments of an application into lightweight containers.
How you build Docker image?
So there is a command sudo docker build, and after that the image name. So that after that the image is built, so it becomes a container. And if you want to run the interactive terminal mode, so you can add IT command as well. And if any port mapping is required, then let's say 8000 port and 80 port is there. So first one is the host, and second one host and container. So that port mapping is done. So if we want to run multiple applications using the single port, so in that way port forwarding we can do.
So in Kubernetes, you mentioned that you do some troubleshooting if there is any pod is down. So first, let me know how do you check the pod status?
kubectl get pods. I mean, to get the pod,
Mhm.
we use that command, and get status. We will use kubectl get status as far as I remember.
What else task you performed on Kubernetes? Where your Kubernetes was running in cloud or bare metal? How?
No, it was Azure Kubernetes. AKS service was there.
AKS, AKS.
AKS service, Azure Kubernetes service. So that was a
How
cloud.
to how we can check the log of container in Kubernetes?
Kubectl get logs.
So,
Huh? So see, I will have to brush up Kubernetes again.
okay. What about the Linux OS?
So Linux, I will
Any?
rate 3 out of 5. So I'm not at the administrator level, but at the OS level I used to do. I mean, basic commands all I know. Because
How
after
to check
the
the
creation of server, like in from Terraform, so we used to supposed to install the software like RabbitMQ and all that stuff. Project specific softwares.
how to check the gateway in Linux? Which command you will use to check the gateway?
Check the gateway. To check the IP, we use if config command.
Uh, yeah, IP, fine. Route table. What command you use to check the route table entries? Gateway. Okay. How you will check the memory? Which command you will use to check the memory?
Memory.
Hmm.
Cat proc meminfo
Mhm.
to check the
What
RAM.
else?
So there are multiple commands. Right now I remember that command. Cat proc meminfo, and if you want to check the CPU, cat proc CPU info. Other than that, there are top and htop command to check the CPU.
Mhm. Another is about you know about control group and namespace functionality of Linux kernel.
Namespace and
Control group.
namespaces are used to bind certain processes together for the classification of processes, and control group. Right now I don't remember.
Mhm. Can you give me an example of uses of all these?
The namespaces are used for the naming of the processes, because sometimes there are sub processes are created with the same name.
Mhm.
So to avoid that, and control group I have read, but right now I don't remember. CNAME are there.
What is the use of IP table command?
IP tables are used as
IP.
a firewall. I mean, IP table is a generic command, and if you want to filter any traffic or stop, so let's say if you want to stop the mailing service, so we will use the command for their protocols, just like that. So IP tables, I mean the commands are a bit tough, but that is basically used to block the traffic and allow the traffic.
Which command you will use to change the ownership of the file?
Chmod.
No.
Ownership of the file chown.
How you will check all the listening port available in a system? Which command you will check all the listening TCP port?
All the listening port. Telnet. If we want to check whether that port is listening or not, we use telnet command.
But I want to check on a system all the port that are currently available. Those are listening.
I am not so sure, but netstat command can be used.
What is the difference between TCP and UDP?
So TCP is there in which the transmission is guaranteed because of the three-way handshake. Because when the traffic goes, the acknowledgement comes back that the traffic has achieved. So the examples are like that if we are using any like a videography, etc. So if that packet is lost, so it comes back again. And like in UDP, if that data is lost, it will never be transmitted back again, like in VoIP phones. And like we are talking over the internet, so the voice traffic will go in UDP. So if any data packet is lost, so you will never hear my voice, that voice again.
Which build and release tool you familiar with?
Build and release tool means like Jenkins.
Yeah.
So in Jenkins I have used.
Okay. You know about Jenkins pipeline?
But it can be done in many ways. I used to trigger manually, but all the configuration was done at the backend itself. Otherwise, you can use it with Docker or shell scripting or Groovy or anything. It's a very flexible tool and free of cost.
What is Prometheus?
So Prometheus is a monitoring tool. I mean,
what else?
so I have used for this monitoring purpose using CPU as a metric, and there are certain commands to get the output. As far as I remember, that is known as Prometheus query language. And if we want to more graphical version of Prometheus, so we can use Grafana. So just like we browse any file in our laptop, so there is a data source option. So from there we will pull be it Nagios or Prometheus into Grafana. So a very good GUI is provided by the Grafana.
What kind of database it used to store metrics?
So I had used basically like I have told you, I was there for the implementation purpose. So after installation we were doing the testing, so that time we has used the CPU metric. But Prometheus does not provide that GUI rich experience. Only basic lines I saw. So I did that around 1 to 1.5 years back on a client side. MWay was our client.
Terraform, previous organization?
Yes. So Visual Studio Code we used. After that we imported the skeleton code or the jump starter kit from the golden images. After that the testing guy was used to give the naming conventions, like if there is any region. So the region name, I mean no mistakes were tolerated by AT&T. Otherwise the application used to come back. So we had created a local copy using Git on in our HVD, and we used to push the code in Azure repo. After that, all the required resources were created, and the respective teams were told. Like database person was different, so we used to give the access to the database guy, and he used to continue with his task.
Oh, talking about Terraform, right? How Terraform works?
Terraform is basically is a infrastructure as a code tool. So the main purpose of using that code is that for the backup purposes, if we want to keep our infrastructure. So let's say we create all the things manually, and if tomorrow the infrastructure goes down due to some reason, so if we have the code ready, we can deploy it back again in lesser time as compared to the manual. And the other option is to use the disaster recovery, but that will incur charges. So the cost reduction process method is, better is to do the infrastructure as code and push those changes in our repo. And there is one, there are multiple advantages. If you want to destroy your infrastructure, then run Terraform destroy command and everything is destroyed in a instance.
What is mean by provider in Terraform?
Provider is the vendor. Like if you want to AWS we are using, so the provider is AWS. And if you are using Azure, so Azure. If there is an Nginx, so Nginx is the provider.
So, you know about logging solution like Kibana, Elasticsearch?
No, logging, I don't.
It
was there in BSSC project, but I was not a part of it actually. Kibana and Elasticsearch was there in my project, but the other team was working on that.
Okay. That's it from my end. So let me know if you have any question or anything that you want to know.
One question. May I ask? Actually, I don't have a question. I have a request actually. The HR was saying that if I am through with this round of interview, then she was willing to schedule it for tomorrow, but tomorrow I am not available, so we can keep on Friday. And that's a small request.
No, not at all. Only when you are building. It's only we will schedule when you are available.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So just quick feedback for you. Just to go through Kubernetes, check more about it. Okay.
Kubernetes. And
Yeah, Kubernetes is fine because we have almost day to day you'll be working with Kubernetes, right?
oh,
So that's why I'm telling you. For my end, it's I will recommend for next round.
oh,
Okay, so that's why I'm telling you. Prepare for the next round.
okay.
Hopefully,
So,
yeah.
and apart from Kubernetes, what I need to brush up?
See, AWS you're fine. Does not matter, right? Docker, basic and whatever the question I ask you, just answer those well. Right? You already told, yeah, you're weak in cascading. That's fine. That's a fair rate.
Okay.
So just spend few things like few Kubernetes, how that work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Like I asked you a couple of questions. How to check the pod status, right?
Mm-hmm.
How to what are the component in Kubernetes? Like pod is there, deployment is there. There are few things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just learn about the few basic usage, whatever you know about it.
Okay.
Means whatever you did in the past, just brush those. Just try to learn those. It's not something new. Whatever you already knew, just correct them. That is what I'm telling.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Ritik. Thanks for your time.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Bye. Have a nice day.